Hello, and welcome to another episode of A Happy Moment. My name is Dan, and I'm glad to have you with me today. Happy October! It's been a while since I've done a solo episode, but I wanted to kick off October with some horror. I've got a few horror related episodes in the works, but those interviews haven't been recorded yet, so you're stuck with me just for today. It's also been a while since I did an episode on an old horror movie. I know I've gained a lot of new listeners over the summer, so I'll tell this quick story again. When I was a kid and I'd go to the library, they had these big orange books for a lot of the classic Universal horror movies. The books were basically a condensed version of the plot, and that's what I aim to do with episodes like this. I previously did episodes for The Wolfman, Dracula, and Frankenstein. So today I bring you the 1935 film, The Bride of Frankenstein, directed by James Whale. Colin Clive is back to reprise his role as Dr. Henry Frankenstein, and Boris Karloff is also back to play the monster. They're joined by Elsa Lanchester in a dual role as Mary Shelley and the bride. Mary Shelley is the author of the Frankenstein novel, which was inspired by a competition from Lord Byron to see who could write the best ghost story, and that's where our movie starts. We get a recap of the first movie, and then Mary continues the description of events starting at the burning windmill. There's a slight alteration here as Henry is portrayed to be dead before coming to once he's brought back to his manor, whereas the first movie ended with Henry safe and sound. We actually get off to a pretty chilling start here. Remember Maria, the little girl the monster was playing with in the first movie, and he accidentally drowned her? Her father, Hans, is with his wife searching the ruins of the windmill because he wants to be certain the monster is dead. He ends up falling into a hole where he finds the monster, who proceeds to drown him, and this time it wasn't accidental. Hans's wife mistakenly helps the monster out of the hole, and he proceeds to murder her as well by tossing her down to the hole. The villagers tried to kill him, so I can understand his anger. We then go to the manor of Baron Frankenstein, where Henry is with his fiancée Elizabeth. They're interrupted by a knock at the door, and we're introduced to the villainous Dr. Pretorius, a disgraced university professor and former colleague of Henry's. He's familiar with Henry's experiments and wants to work together. He also hints at blackmailing Henry and exposing the truth about his work. Pretorius takes Henry to his home and shows him his own experiments. Instead of animating a patched-up corpse like Henry, Pretorius grew people, and we see the pint-sized group of humans that he grew and keeps in jars. They're only like 3 or 4 inches tall. He tells a shocked Henry that he wants to work with him to create a mate for the monster, which Henry's not too thrilled about. Meanwhile, after spooking a young shepherd in the countryside, the monster is apprehended by the angry village mob and put in chains in jail. This is very short-lived, and he soon breaks free, going on a rampage in the village. We see the aftermath, and a young girl is left dead. After a run-in with a group of gypsies gone wrong out in the woods, he's left with a burnt hand, and monster runs away again. He's wandering through the woods, and he hears some violin music. He follows it, and he finds a blind man living by himself in a hut, and the blind man invites him inside, and he's the first person who has shown any kind of kindness to the monster. He prays over the monster and pledges to take care of him. The monster stays there a while and even learns to talk. They drink wine together and having a good time, but unfortunately, it doesn't last. A couple of lost hunters stumble upon the hut and find the monster. There's a struggle that ensues that results in the hut being set on fire, and the hunters take the blind man away, and our monster is alone again. As luck would have it, he takes refuge in a crypt, the same crypt being raided by Dr. Pretorius and his henchmen while they search for corpses for his experiments. The henchmen leave after finding a body for the doctor, and he stays behind talking to Bones and drinking. The monster approaches, looking for another friend. Pretorius tells him he wants to create a mate for him, and soon he has the monster doing his bidding. When Pretorius approaches Henry and asks for his help again, Henry refuses, so Pretorius orders the monster to kidnap Elizabeth. To try and get her back safely, Henry reluctantly agrees to assist Pretorius. They then proceed to work on bringing life to what is supposed to be the monster's mate. During the course of the experiments, the monster gets a little bit impatient, so Pretorius drugs him and knocks him out. Henry and Pretorius, they're hard at work, and eventually the experiment is a success. She's alive, Henry excitedly proclaims. The bride is alive, and she has a sweet hairdo too. She's very nervous and a bit skittish. When she meets the monster, things don't go as planned. Much to the monster's dismay, she screams and wants nothing to do with him. He's sad, and that quickly turns to anger. He threatens to pull a lever that will blow up the keep that they're in. Why does the keep have a kill switch? I have no idea. Maybe to get rid of evidence? Seems a bit extreme. But just then, Elizabeth arrives and bangs on the door. She somehow managed to get free of where Pretorius was keeping her captive. The monster lets Henry and Elizabeth leave. Then he turns his attention to Pretorius and declares, "We belong dead." He proceeds to pull the lever, causing the keep to explode, with the monster, the bride, and Pretorius still inside. I'm not sure why he let Henry live. My guess is that it was the arrival of Elizabeth. Even though he kidnapped her earlier, it was at the bidding of Pretorius, and now he's realizing that Pretorius is the real villain here. This is a really good movie with some striking visuals, such as the monster laughing and smoking with the blind man, Praetorius sitting in the crypt talking to a skull and laughing maniacally, the first look that we get at the bride after she's unwrapped, and the monster with tears rolling down his face as he pulls the lever, to name a few. It also has that great orchestral soundtrack that's common in these old horror movies. And that's it. That's The Bride of Frankenstein. That's all I have for you today. If I do another one of these episodes, I'm going to continue with the series in order. We definitely have not seen the last of Frankenstein's monster, and we'll visit him again in Son of Frankenstein. When I did this type of episode back in season 1, I had pretty good feedback, so I probably will keep going with it. But I should be back next week with an interview. We'll see what happens and how much I get done. But until then, thanks for watching and take care, everybody.